Salutations, fam. This is Arim from Haltessiagaming, and in today's video, things are going to be a bit different. Um, yeah, it's going to be a different kind of video today. So, we're in, kind of a new format, or I took a bit of a break recently, and I'm in the deck building process where I'm, building a deck for tournament. And I figured I'd kind of show a little bit of a peek into my deck building process and some of the things that I do when I am, preparing for a new format. Um, so, one of the things that happens whenever a new format comes along is, I kind of go through this period of deciding not just what decks I think are viable, but what decks I feel like playing because I do have a pretty decent card pool because I've been playing for a long time. I have a couple of different cores that I can go to. I've got, like Eldritch, I've got Salamangreat, I've got Dino, I've got a bunch of different dragon decks. And, sometimes, because I tend to win a lot of product, maybe I find out that, oh, I actually can build, a new deck with, some of the cards that I've gotten over maybe the last format or so. And right now, I have an idea of a deck that I kind of want to try out. Um, for the most part, I do still think that like branded is probably the best deck for me to be playing. Um, the deck obviously didn't receive any major hits, and it also received new support. But more importantly, a lot of the other decks in the format that would have been competing with branded receive hits on the ban list to lower their power level. Um, there are other decks that I am kind of considering, like Dragon Link. I'm very, very interested in Dino, but there are some cards I would have to obtain before I'm able to play that. Whenever a new format happens, there's the question of which utility cards are going to be good into the new format. So that's something that I like to look at as well. Um, but yeah, for right now, I do want to try out this kind of bestial branded deck. Because one of the things about my previous list is that, I was actually borrowing the Cartesia. So I wanted to try and build a branded deck that I think would be strong into the current meta without, even though I don't have access to Cartesia. I didn't really want to play branded Blue Eyes coming into this format. Um, Not because necessarily I don't think it'll be good, but because it's so much worse without Cartesia, and I just feel so bad playing it without Cartesia. Being able to like fuse the Blue Eyes cards in hand, using Dust Dragon to help get your stuff in rotation a lot quicker. It was very, very nice to be able to have access to that. And just, not having access to that does feel kind of bad. But yeah, so one of the things that I do after I've got like an initial draft on like the deck list is let me actually count and make sure it's 40 real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is it 41? I mean, 41's not bad. Let me just 5. Okay, yeah, it is 41. I mean, that's not bad. Not really a substantial difference in the statistics. Um, So yeah, when it comes to like building a deck, there's a couple of checklists that I feel a deck has to bypass, like it has to get past a certain checklist before I'd even like consider it for a competitive event. Um, One is obviously like power level. It has to be able to be at a certain power level where it can actually like stand up to the current, game of Yu-Gi-Oh. It has to be able to play through like interruption going second. It has to be able to play through like hand traps. It has to have at least an 80% chance of opening playable. Um, there's, it has to be able to like win through like multiple game states and things like that. So like going over branded, one of the things about like deck building, and this is actually an issue that I notice a lot of people have, is that they don't know how to properly categorize their cards. Very often I will see people call things starters that are not actually starters. Um, so for me, at least, when I'm referring to a starter card, I'm talking about a card that by itself can get you to like board presence and interaction on your opponent's turn. Like something like, for example, Rhoda would only be a starter if like it searches your combo starter, for example, right? Like if I'm playing Hero, something like Elemental Hero Stratos is a starter because it can search Vision Hero Ferris, and Vision Hero Ferris does your combo. But something like Upstart Goblin wouldn't be considered a starter, even though it does advance your game state. It doesn't advance your game state in a relevant way. It's not like guaranteed to do so. So a lot of what people call starters fall into a category that I call pseudo starters. These are cards that advance your game state, but like they either advance your game state but not in a relevant way, or they have some criteria of a starter but they're not like all the way there, right? Like maybe they get you board presence but they don't give you any interaction, or maybe they give you interaction but they don't give you any board presence, or things like that. So following that kind of context of an 80% chance or higher of seeing playable, right? We want to that This is a 41 card deck, so let's, count the number of starters. We have 3 branded opening, 3 Nadir Servant, 3 branded fusion. Like for example, some people will call Quem a starter. Quem is not a starter. Foolish Burial is not a starter. Albion's not a starter. Lubellion's not a starter. Goldsark actually is a starter. Kid is a starter. Aluber is a starter. High Spirits is a starter. Yeah, these are starter cards because, like, basically the resolution of these cards will get you to interaction and board presence. So obviously, Branded High Spirits gets you to Spriggan's Kit, which gets you to Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is 3 interruptions, right? So that's that. Then you have Aluber. Aluber search Branded Fusion, gets you 3 interruptions. Gold Sark Banish Mercurier, get Kit, Branded Fusion, Branded Fusion. And then you have like Branded Opening, get Aluber, search Branded Fusion. And then you have the 3 copies of Nadir Servant. So this doesn't get you to Branded Fusion. And this is actually another one of my checklists that I'm considering when it comes to like deciding on a competitive deck. Um, and is that you want to have, starters that give you board presence and interaction, but you also don't want too many of your cards to lead to the exact same play line. Because the problem with that philosophy is that if your opponent knows a matchup and they know what the everything is leading to, and they know your choke point, it doesn't really matter how much engine you have in your hand, right? So the thing about these cards is that for the most part they all get you Branded Fusion, right? But the thing about it is a lot of these cards don't only get you Branded Fusion, right? This gets you Aluber to get Branded Fusion or like other branded spell traps, or it gets you Quem. So it's like if you already have Branded Fusion, this sets up another play line, Or, if you get Astral Branded Fusion, this can set up Quem. Gold Sark similarly can also get you to Quem. Kit, Brand in High Spirit sends stuff from the extra deck. So it's like you have multiple lines of play to get to board presence interaction. But going, over to Nadir, this gets you to Dogmatica Maximus or, Quem. Right? It gets you to Dogmatica Maximus or Quem, and Maximus effect sends Titanoclad and Albion, which gets you Branded Retribution, right? It gets you Branded Retribution or Branded Banishment, and, Titanoclad summons Quem, right? So it's like this is an actual starter as well. So let's count how many this is. These are starters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is 16 and 41, which is actually well over 80%. We're actually going into like the 90% territory. So I will definitely say that this deck is going to be extremely consistent. So I'm not really worried about bricking. But the thing is, personally, I actually do want to be around that range, because in reality, I don't just want an 80% chance of seeing a starter. I actually like playing, around this range, because in addition to giving me more than a 90% chance of opening a starter, I have around I believe, like it's more than a 70% chance of me opening 2 starters, right? So it's like I don't just want to open one of these, I want to open 2, because in reality, you want to be able to play through an interruption, right? You don't just want to win the games where your opponent doesn't have that Ash Blossom. You also want to win the games where they do have Ash Blossom. So those are my 16 starter cards. But then I play cards that, as I mentioned, fall into a different category, which we call pseudo starters. So these are cards that do advance your game state, but they don't do so in a way that I can't words. They don't do so in a way that they give you interaction and board presence by themselves, right? So, well, technically, Lubellion kind of does, because you can go Lubellion and then just have the Magnamut banish the Lubellion and then search for like a Bestial, and then you have a Bestial. So honestly, this could potentially count as a starter. But in the context of this deck and what we're trying to accomplish, I don't consider it a starter, simply because of the low power level of it. But so it's like we have 16 starters. We got multiple pseudo starters as well. And then, we also have like Magnamut, which, can get our plays going. We have Saronir. We have we have Saronir, we have the Shrouded Dragon, right? So it's like these are also cards that can fall into the category of pseudo starter. So we've got 16 starters and then an additional, 10 pseudo starters. So this puts me in a position where my deck will be very, very, very consistent. But in addition to that, the likelihood of me being able to play through boards going second and also play through interruption when I'm building my board going first is very, very, very high. So yeah, and then, looking at the rest of the deck, you have utility cards, right? So one thing you may notice is that I'm not playing that much utility. Well, but the thing is, that's actually kind of misleading, because I am playing utility. I'm just playing utility that synergizes with my engine. Remember, these are effectively utility slots, okay? Cards like this are effectively utility slots, okay? But the thing is, they all have unique synergy with the deck and the engine. Like Bestials are really good into the format, but, they also have like synergy with the deck. For the most part, the only like pure, like unsearchable utility cards that I'm playing, the Called by the Grave, the 2 Triple Tactics Thrust, and the 1 Triple Tactics Talents, alongside a Fusion Duplication. Branded Banishment, Branded Beast, Mercurier, Druid's Worm, and Jalgan are all just like searchable through the deck's engine. Whereas these cards, I just kind of have to like draw them. So yeah, these are like the utility slots. Yeah, those. And then we have like, you know, like branded loss, engine requirements, right? Like I said, I think it's 41 card main deck. Then we have the extra deck. Like I said, this is just a preliminary like draft. I don't actually know if this is what the deck's gonna end up looking like. I just realized I was supposed to take this out. I'm probably gonna put in the Lulu Wolf. Actually, I'm gonna do that now. Because that's actually part of what this phase is for. It's, you know, me figuring out what my deck list is actually going to be through the, you know, the process. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this and swap this for a Luluwilith real quick. So yeah, gonna go ahead and grab this Luluwilith, throw that into the extra deck. It's more like I'm basically making adjustments to account for the fact that I don't have a Cartesia. So I have to figure out like what my list is going to be like, and, you know, what my game plan is going to be without, you know, certain cards. So yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you also want to count, make sure you have an idea of, you know, the number of cards you're playing. But basically at this stage, after I've got put together my first draft for my deck list, we move into the next stage, which is where I just do a bunch of test hands. Okay, so when I do test hands, it's a little bit different from what I notice a lot of people do when they do test hands. For the most part, in this stage, I'm really just kind of practicing, you know, my shuffling. They are still test hands, but I don't need to play them out because I've gotten to a level of experience with the deck where I can kind of look at a hand and know what it is. You know, I know what the end board is based on the hand, you know? So one of the things I do after I get that initial first draft, the next thing I do, and this is something I do for most of my decks, right? If I'm like really taking it seriously, is I do 100 test hands, right? With the list that I plan to be playing in tournament, I'll do 100 test hands and I will mark them with dice. So, for example, I'm going to have my field center right here. And basically, I'll do a test hand and we'll have a dice. Like dice over here means that the hand was playable. Dice over here means that the hand was playable with the 6 card. Dice over here means that the hand was unplayable, right? That just I bricked. Ideally, we don't want any dice over here. So we're going to have this dice, and we just did a little bit of shuffle. Now, the thing is, when I'm doing this, I mix up my shuffling methods throughout of it because that simulates what will be happening over the course of a long tournament. You know, you're going to play against different opponents. They're going to cut your deck differently. You're going to shuffle differently, you know, things like that. So we're going to look at the first test hand and see how it goes. So we drew Maximus, Jaugen, Lubellion, Nadir, and Branded Fusion. So that was a playable hand. Like I said, I don't need to play it out because I already know that that hand's playable. So dice goes there for 1. And then we're going to shuffle again. All right, we're going to shuffle again. And then we're going to look at the next 5. So we have Kit. Don't need to look at the next card. Kit is Branded Fusion. That hand is playable. So 2. And then, like I said, I like to mix up my shuffling methods. Mercurier, Branded Fusion. Don't need to do anything further. That's a playable hand. All right, that's a playable hand. We already know we don't need to look further. All right. You see Fallen of Elbaz, Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is not a starter. Branded Fusion. The hand is playable. Right? And you just kind of keep, you know, mixing up your shuffling methods, right? Just like you would be doing in a tournament over the long event, right? People are going to cut your deck differently, right? And the reason why I do it like this is because one of the things I notice a lot of people do is that, like, I feel as though a lot of players don't do nearly enough testing, like play testing and test hands, right? So they have an idea of their deck that isn't really accurate, right? So a hand like this, right? This hand is not playable with the 5 cards. So in this case, this would be a case where I would, if I were in tournament, I'd be able to activate this Albion and draw a card. So we're going to activate the Albion and we're going to draw a card. So in this case, I'm going to send the Branded Lost to the grave, right? I'm going to send Branded Lost because, you know, we can potentially get it with like Branded Beast and yada, 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 right? Then we're going to shuffle and we're going to draw and see if this draw makes the hand playable. If not, there's a dice potentially here. So we're going to take this, put this on the bottom, and we're going to see what we draw. Oh, we didn't draw anything. So now we're going to see if potentially going second. Okay, we drew Branded Opening. So we're going to put a dice right here. Playable with the 6 card. Alrighty. So that is 5 test hands so far. And it didn't take very long. Most of the time spent doing this is just going to be your shuffling. So that's 5. And like I said, I do this 100 times every list. I'm not going to do all 100 on camera, but I just wanted to kind of showcase this idea of like doing the test hand and using the dice to like keep track of it. Because if you actually try to like count, you're going to lose track. Like it's going to happen, I promise you. Alrighty, so that is 6. We got 6 playable hands. Right now, one of the things as well is that like when you're doing this, why did I get to 100? So 100 is just kind of a number I threw out. But when I first started doing this, I think it was 24, because I believe that is, because let me see, it's like if you play in a 4-round locals, cut to top 4, and then you play top 4, and then finals, that is 6, you know, it's like 6 rounds, effectively 6 matches of Yu-Gi-Oh! Something like that. Wait, no. Where's the 24? It's some like tournament variation where basically if you go to game 3 every match, you would play 24 games. So that's 7 rounds. So I think that's oh wait, duh. That's just 4 rounds in the top 8. I'm dumb. Yeah, that's 4 rounds in the top 8. Unless I can't do math. I'm tired. It's like late at night. I just got home. I can't do math. I can't do math when I'm sleepy. But the whole point is that you want to really try to like put your deck through the ringer. For the most part, I notice that when people do test hands, they don't really do a large amount of test hands, because when you do large amounts of test hands, it really starts to show the deck's variance. And you want to keep track of, now obviously I couldn't do it because, you know, I'm recording, but usually what I'll do is whenever I see like what I would consider a bad hand, I'll take a picture of it to keep track of what my worst hand was and see how bad my worst hand was, right? So, and this is, you know, because this is still in like the early phases of the deck building process, right? Whatever those hands that are unplayable, we look at the hands and we ask ourselves, Is there a deck building change that I can make that would have made that hand playable? Um, I can't remember the hand. I think it was, what was it? I can't remember what the hand was, but basically in scenarios like that, I would ask myself, is there a deck building change that I can make that doesn't like harm the deck too significantly that would have made the hand playable? And because like if I do 100 test hands and there's like 20 over here, that means the deck is not consistent enough and I need to make some changes. Um, right? Because sometimes making certain extra deck changes will like do it because there are some decks where I'll play Almirage in the extra deck because being able to link off a normal summon might have enabled some hands or. So yeah, I'm gonna we're going to time travel into the future and we're gonna do a couple more test hands. So I'll come back after I've done like 20 more test hands and we'll see how the dice have shaken up. Just a little bit of a sneak peek in. Doing a bunch of test hands so far. We've had I keep drawing trap cards. Ooh, this is okay, there we go. We drew the branded fusion. Otherwise that would have been quite an unfortunate one. Quite unfortunate. So yeah, you can see how the dice are starting to shape up. And then we have, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe it's like 16 dice. Right? It's like, actually no, it's like 17 dice is the minimum. Yeah. Cool. Got a deer. Grab another dice. Hello there, little Chiwin. What is this? Saronero? Branded fusion. Cool. That's what we like to see. So that goes up to 2. The awkward thing is I'm not sure if you guys can see the cards. Saronero and deer. Oh no. There we go. And then I'll do this one this time. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I say I actually do 100. But yeah. I do not like bricking. So I put a lot of effort into these. Just based off of this preliminary test, I'm probably going to like turn one of those traps into like another like playmaker, but I don't know. Anyway, see you in the future. Small update. I've done a decent amount more test hands. We reached a point where I think we would have played through an entire tournament at this point. So this is pretty good. Yep, pretty good. We're at 60. We're more than halfway there. As you can see, things are going pretty well, but variance is still a thing. As you can see, there has been a hand that we drew unplayable. Those type of hands, as you can see, because of the large amount of variance, are very rare. Most of the time, we are going to be drawing playable. Oh, I didn't. Sometimes I forget to move the dice up after I do a test hand. Anyway, time travel. We've time traveled again. We are in the home stretch. We're in the home stretch of the test hands. What are we at, like? We're at like 90 something. We're past 90. Last 90. Almost done. So yeah, we're gonna time travel one more time. Alrighty, we are on the last test hand. And well, as we can see, the deck has already passed the bar of having, you know, gotten a playable hand 80% of the time or better. Yeah, this is the 100th test hand, and no matter what it is, we're already in that acceptable range. All right, let's see what the last test hand is. Well, playable hand, we see Goldsark, Drissworm. Oh, wait, hold up, the bird. So Goldsark does not actually work. So actually, whenever I see Goldsark, I actually do look to see if I drew the bird, because the bird is the bridge. Oh, never mind, we drew a Looper, it didn't matter. And then the 5th card is Saronir. So we drew 2 Bestials going second for hand traps, and a Looper and Goldsark to fetch something potentially as well, and maybe even bait out negate. And that is the 100th test hand. And of our 100 test hands, we had 2 bricks, 2 completely unplayable hands, 4 hands that needed the 6 card to be playable, and then the rest of the 100 test hands were playable. So that is going to be a pass on this list, passing the preliminary test that I put every deck through before I determine whether or not I will be willing to even bother moving to the next stage with them, which is play testing. So now we move to the next stage, which will be covered in a future video where I actually play test the deck against a couple of different matchups to see how it interacts in certain types of matchups. But that's going to be it for this video. This has been Darkslayer from Haltessiagaming. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and share it with your friends. Patreon link is in the description and in the pinned comment. If you want to see videos posted earlier, you want to be a part of the deck building process, see everything posted, see everything as soon as it's finished before it gets posted on the channel. See a lot of the ideas that I have in the theory tank that don't actually end up making it onto the channel. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful day. Please go drink some water. And now it is time for our favorite mini game. Will my button work?